Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. In today's video, it's about an NFL legend. His name is Ken Houston out of Lufkin, Texas. So if you like the video today, please comment and share it. We'll surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards of Football. Ken Houston, the 936. Can I say this? Lufkin, Texas. In the house. The eyes of Texas. Boy, this is a special football player, Kenny Houston. I remember his time when he came in the league in 1967. He was drafted in the ninth round, 214 pick overall by the Houston Oilers. And boy, he played very special football for the Oilers during them 6 years. Then he got traded to the Washington Redskins in 1973. And it was something very familiar with that trade because he was traded with 5 players. But my fondest memory of Kenny Houston, see, people that's been watching 100 Yards Football should know I'm a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. I've been this Cowboys fan since I was 6 years old, started in 1966. But on October the 8th, 1973, Monday Night Football, it was a real serious divisional game in the NFC East between the Washington Redskins and the Dallas Cowboys. Almost 20 seconds left in the game. The Cowboys got the ball on the Washington's 8-yard line. Dallas quarterback Craig Morton, he rolls out. And he throws a pass right there at the goal line to Walt Garrison, who's a running back out of Oklahoma State. But what people don't know is this right here about Walt Garrison. Walt Garrison back in them days was hard to bring down. And Kenny Houston made a tackle at the goal line perfect. Hit him and stopped him in his tracks and then grabbed him from behind and held him back. The crowd went crazy. Harold Cosell Kenny Houston, the greatest safety in the game. Kenny Houston made that play. And that play is going to stick in NFL history. Monday Night Football, October the 8th, 1973. But let me talk about Kenny Houston as a football player, as a man. I understand why Kenny Houston ended up in the Hall of Fame in 1986. Think about his upbringings. He comes from a town of Lufkin, Texas, that's produced a lot of great football players. Can I say Dez Bryant? Can I say Dante Hall? Can I say Reggie McNeil? Can I say T.J. Turner? Can I say Terrence Keel? Can I say V.C. Nobles, quarterback, University of Houston, one of the first black players that played college football as a black quarterback? That's where Kenny Houston came from that area. Nothing but royalty. But it's where his work ethic came from that I think people need to know today why not only he was special as a football player, but also a guy that gave back to the community. He grew up in an area that his parents owned a dry cleaning business. And it was the only dry cleaning business in that area in Lufkin, Texas, in the 60s. Let this stick in your head 1 minute. In the 60s. And how I know that business built him is that I grew up in the same business under my father, Chester Turner, in the 70s. And when you have a dry cleaners, especially in the African-American community, it says something about you. You're giving out to your people. You're supporting your people. And people look at you different, and they look at you as a royalty, but also they know that you're putting a stamp on the community. That's when I know Kenny Houston was special, growing up in that environment. Then going to Dunbar High School in Lufkin, Texas, and playing under one of the most legendary coaches, Elmer Red. Mr. Houston won 3 state championships in 1964, 1966, and 1964, 1966, and 1967. But this is the thing that really about Kenny Houston. As he was coached by Elmer Red, who was the first black assistant at the University of Houston, especially in the Southwest Conference, is that Kenny Houston went to Prairie View University, and that was his only scholarship. Then he went there as a center. That's right, as a center. But then they moved him to linebacker. And he became a black college All-American 3 years straight. And then he was at a school at Prairie View back in the 60s that had a lot of royalty. Clem Daniels, Sam Adams, Jim Kearney, Charles Brackens, Otis Taylor, Jim Mitchell, Atlanta Falcons greatest. And then Mr. Houston got to the NFL, was drafted by the Oilers in the 9th round, 2014 pick, 1967 draft. But the thing was, they moved him from linebacker to safety, and the rest is history. But think about this. He played on some Houston Oilers defenses that was pretty good, but Houston didn't win. He played with Don Floyd, George Rice, one of the best linebackers in college football that came into the league, George Webster out of Michigan State University, Zeke Moore, Miller Flower, Evan Bethea, but he was the best player on the field for the Oilers during his 6 years there. But something about Kenny Houston that people don't know about. He was traded to the Washington Redskins in 1973 for 5 players, But there was the thing about it. Once he got traded to the Washington Redskins, he put his stamp on that Redskins defense. It already had Pat Fisher, Harold McClinton, Southern University's finest, Chris Hamburger, Verlin Briggs, Manny Sistrom. Mr. Houston went to 7 straight Pro Bowls when he was traded to the Washington Redskins. But the thing about Kenny Houston that made him so special, think about all the safeties that came before him during that time. Everybody was saying Larry Wilson with the St. Louis Cardinals was the best safety. Johnny Robinson, who was playing with the Kansas City Chiefs out of LSU, was the best safety. Willie Wood, who was with the Green Bay Packers, they said he was the best safety. Carl Lockhart, who was playing with the New York Giants. But during that time, it was all about Mr. Kenny Houston. He was the best safety of them all. But what I like about him was his height. He was 6'3", about 195 pounds, ran like a deer. Excellent speed, A+. The quickness, A+. The size, I just mentioned, A+. And one thing back then that you had to have, he was a punishing tackler. Oh, yes. And he was a guy that can read coverage the second day. He was the quarterback back there. And he brought another thing to the position. The keys that he kept good position. He was always in good position where he never, ever, when he was playing on that back nine, we say playing safety, he was out of control. But what more can you say about Kenny Houston? 12-time Pro Bowl. Went to the Pro Bowl 7 times. Pro Football Hall of Famer in 1986. In 1971, when we was the Houston Oilers, he set an NFL record. He scored 5 touchdowns, 4 by interceptions, 1 by fumble recovery. It was a record at that time. And in his career, he played in 196 games, 49 interceptions, fumble recoveries 12, touchdowns 12. Fumble recoveries 21. But you know what? What it told me? That he was productive. NFL 75th anniversary team all time. The 70 greatest Redskins of all time. 1970 all-decade team. He was a special football player. But what made him so special is what he did after the game. When he was at Prairie View, oh yes, he was very strong academically. A Black Football College All-American, got his master's in counseling. But I like what he did after his career. He went back to the Houston area and became a head coach at Whitley High School. Became a counselor to children's hospitals in the Houston area. Became a head football coach. He coached with the Houston Oilers back in 1986 to 1990. He coached Steve Brown, Chris Dishman. Then in 1990, he was on the University of Houston Cougar staff as a defensive backfield coach. And you know how I know Ken Houston was special? I had a guy that was from my hometown that played linebacker by the name of Eric Blunt, Hillcrest High School. And he said Kenny Houston was one of the most classiest men he ever met in his life. But look at the whole resume, man. The guy went to Prairie View, only one school offered him. He transcended that to the National Football League. He was a 9th round pick, 214 overall, when he should have been a 1st round pick. And look at his career, a Pro Football Hall of Famer from the 936, from a football-rich area. But what's going to stick out most to me about Kenny Houston is upbringing. In the 60s, think about this one more time. His family had the only dry cleaning business in Lufkin, Texas. And it really not only supported the Black community, it supported all communities. And this young man developed a work ethic that, hey, every obstacle I have in my way, I'm going to be the best I can be. Go back one more time. Prairie View was the only school to offer him a scholarship. And he went there as a center, an offensive center. They moved him to linebacker. Then he gets to the NFL, and the Houston Oilers drafted him as a safety. And the rest is history. During that time, he was the best safety in pro football. He wasn't on any winning teams, but what he did, he was all about winning. And there was one thing I take away from Kenny Houston. His words were, the key words to be a player in the NFL is learning to be part of a team. Are you coachable? And the rest will come. See, when you go work in the dry cleaners, like I did in Memphis, Tennessee, especially in the summer when it's almost 140 degrees, it's something called teamwork. Then you got 3 sisters beside you that's right there with you. And then you got a father. I love him to death because he taught me one thing. Work ethic is something you got to have to be successful in this life. And Kenny Houston's path is almost similar to my path. It's something special, man. And I'm happy to be on here today at 100 Yards Football to talk about this legend, Kenny Houston. So, my final words about Kenny Houston. It's about this young man that used to be one of the Temptations. He went solo, and he had a song, I got to keep on trucking to get your loving. A double shame on me, but I got to keep on trucking. Kenny Houston trucked his way out of the 936 of Lufkin, Texas, all the way to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1986. This is a special guy, man. To all the football players out there right now, if you're watching this video, or all the young men that's playing high school football, college football, and got aspirations to go to the National Football League, you need to read up about this young man right here. Kenny Houston, out of Lufkin, Texas in 936. And I know one gentleman that knows him personally is very proud. It's Mark Denham, one of my best friends. He's from the 936. He's got one of the best voices on any level as a PA announcer going on right now in the country. And he comes from the same area, Kenny Houston. So if you like the video today, please come in and share it. I'm your host, Vincent Turner, and I'd like to give special thanks to Mr. Logan Landers for making it happen this morning here on 100 Yards Football. So y'all be blessed today. I'm Vincent Turner of 100 Yards of Football.